past 18 days, many things have happened to me. But unfortunately, I wasn't too transparent when I was an invisible man. Because I've not been an invisible man. This entire time I've been an undead mummy. Okay, not the entire time. Ever since Werewolf Week, when I got that bogus advice to stay on the road, I stayed on the road and someone killed me in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, since I didn't pass my werewolf curse on to somebody else, that curse stayed. And now I cannot die because I am the living undead, or whatever mummies are. I'm a cursed mummy despite not being Egyptian and not being cursed in Egypt. I'm using bandages to hold myself together now because everything's falling out, including a chunk of my brain, which explains the temporary insanity over the last 2 days. Y'all think I made an invisible action figure? I didn't. That was the insanity part of the brain going on. But I think I pieced everything together now, and hopefully nothing else will go wrong with this week, and we'll continue forward. Because we have 3 more days in the Faces Covered week, and that will be dedicated to mummies. How appropriate for my timing. Honestly, we don't even know what's going to happen next week, but I'm pretty sure something horrible is going to happen, like, I don't know, I'm going to become like the living undead vampire werewolf of mummified nightmares. Or something. Honestly, I'm mostly just tired at this point. I've been producing videos despite all this weird stuff happening to me, and I'm glad you all stuck with me to this point, because who knows how long I got left, because I might be here for an eternity. Let's get on to the toy things, though, because that's probably the only reason why you're tuning in, and we're going to talk about a mummy. Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to the Month of Monsters. Today we'll be talking about The Mummy, specifically the 1932 film starring Boris Karloff. Now, this iconic film brought to us the idea of ancient Egyptian mummies coming back from the dead, featuring a curse read from a scroll. It's actually some pretty cool stuff that's been reinterpreted many times since, and we'll talk about those in a different video. But specifically, the idea that a mummy would be coming back is based on ancient Egyptian religious practices for burying the dead in order to have them pass on to the afterlife and have their bodies available. This was a common practice, and a lot of historical stuff came up in the early 1900s, and that sort of led to the fascination with mummies that led to the creation of a film like The Mummy. And what's really cool about it is that you get kind of like different stages of mummy in that film. He sort of got his all-mummy appearance with the bandages, and he sort of restores himself over time, which I'm sort of hoping happens to me because I don't like wearing bandages this much, but you wouldn't even see this arm if it wasn't bandaged up. It's just how it goes. But in terms of the overall sense, I think that The Mummy has inspired a lot of cool action figures over the years, and the one we're going to look at today is the Mego version. And if you're tired of me looking at Mego, blame the toy industry for like 60% of the toys from Universal Monsters being Mego at the moment. It's just how it is. Neca and Jada cannot roll their stuff out fast enough. I want some variety. But let's talk about the Mego Mummy, specifically their second attempt.
So Mego has produced 2 different mummies. The first one is their original designed Egyptian mummy. It's sort of inspired by different films, but it is uniquely their own design. I think it looks pretty cool, though I ultimately ended up not getting this one. The second one, which is the one we're looking at today, is the Boris Karloff mummy design, and it is inspired by Boris Karloff's mummy, so this is the one we're looking at, because it kind of, fit in my collection better, having more universal looks. Looking at the Mego mummy himself, I actually think he looks pretty cool. It's interesting to get a Mego figure that is a action figure that's been wrapped in bandages, as opposed to something that has like a huge, heavy cloth bodysuit. So I think it kind of gives it a different look overall as a figure. I think the head sculpt is pretty good. It's got that look that you would expect from Boris Karloff's mummy, filtered through the Mego sense, and I think that's kind of just how, we'll look at most of these Mego figures in that same vein. I do find it interesting that the way the bandages are done is you can actually see the color of the underbody, which is this kind of grayish color, and it comes through, because it's still a little bit see-through, which I think actually gives it an extra depth of layer that other mummy figures may not have. That this is like the last layer of bandages on him instead of him being bandaged over and over and over again. I also do find it funny because it looks like he has tiny feet, since the Mego feet are usually designed to go inside shoes, and this guy doesn't have shoes. But it does work out, I think, overall. From the back, you can see where some of the bandage ends are, and I haven't had any issues with the figure popping bandages loose, which is good, because in my time with bandages, it's been popping loose all the time. This figure actually holds together pretty good if it's stitched or if it's glued or whatever they did. It holds together well. It's not like gonna unravel unless you're really pulling at it. If you're expecting anything new from Mego articulation, you will be disappointed. This guy's a little bit more restricted because of the bandages, and I also don't want to push the joints too far to make sure the bandages don't pop loose, but it's the same as usual. Here's a weird random size comparison. This mummy next to Mickey Mouse dressed as a mummy from a Disneyland popcorn bucket. I was really looking for something to fill time here, but I thought, hey, let's squeeze Mickey Mouse in, because, you know, Disney dressed as Universal monsters is funny, even though, like, the concept of a mummy is, you know, ancient and Egyptian and not technically licensable. But anyways, there's your random comparison of the day. So overall, I mean, he's pretty cool. In terms of Mego figures, he has a distinctive look with having the bandages as opposed to just like a Velcro bodysuit. And I think that actually gives him like an extra sense of quality. And that actually kind of makes this figure one of the more interesting Mego figures in the collection by far. And in fact, I think he turned out pretty great.
So that does it for the Mego mummy. And yes, we're not quite done with Mego this month. All this stuff was planned out. All the toy segments were filmed in advance before all this crazy curse stuff happened. So, you know, we're not gonna worry about, like, how much more there is. It's not like there's 5 more Megos on the schedule. But I promise you they're all in one video. In terms of Mummy Week, though, tomorrow is going to be interesting because it's not going to be a traditional mummy or one based on any piece of fiction, but something newly created for a toy line by a company. What that might be, and will it be a mashup of sorts? If you've already figured it out, let me know in the comments, because tomorrow we'll be taking a look at a different kind of mummy.